Hey, this is Jason Creel and you're watching The Lawn Care Life. Several years ago, I came up with 101 commonly asked lawn care business questions. But you know what, as with a lot of things, over time those answers that I gave have become a little bit outdated. And so what I wanted to do was to go over some of those same questions, but I don't want to do 101 of them at one sitting. That might be kind of long. So what I'm going to do is take them 20 questions at a time and talk about these common questions that I get asked a lot in the lawn care business and give you my answers on them. Hopefully my answers will be updated since when I originally created the questions and answers several years ago. Let's get started with 20 questions to help you be more successful in your lawn business. Number one, how much money can you make in the lawn care business? Now, for some of you guys that's been doing it a while, you could easily answer this question, or you know from your own experience. But for a lot of people, when you start off and you're looking to take a leap from your full-time job, or maybe you just, starting off young and it's something you wanted to do, you want to know, well, what's my income potential? Well, you can give an easy answer and say millions and millions of dollars, because there are some companies out there that are making millions and millions of dollars. So yeah, how much can you make? Millions and millions, okay? But what about for like the normal businesses out there? Well, let me say this. I do believe, I know that even small companies with an owner and maybe just one employee, they can profit $100,000 in a year. That's just cutting grass and doing things like that. You think, well, how's that possible? That seems high to me. Well, I think that is a successful small business that's able to do that, but a lot of them have year-round contracts, or maybe they've gotten some commercial accounts that pay them a larger amount of money and are year-round as well. But there's a way to do that to be profitable in this industry. Now, if you're just out there cutting, sometimes what a lot of people do, they're mowing kind of seasonal. So here in the South, let's say in my area, people are cutting grass from March through the end of October or something. Well, I think it's reasonable within a few years that you could profit $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 doing that, working 8 or 9 months a year. Now that's hard work. That's you and maybe one or two people working with you. But there's some solo guys that do really well as well. So it's about the structure of your business, but it is a profitable industry. There's a lot of expenses, but you got to keep your rate up higher to be able to make it, in my opinion. A lot of financial potential in lawn care business. Next question, what brand mower should I buy? People there's a lot of brand loyalty, I'll say that. And when I tell people, I've got brands that I have used and had good experiences with. Other people say, they don't particularly want that brand, they recommend another brand. I'll say this, there are a lot of good brands, they really are. These manufacturers are producing really good equipment that continually gets better year after year. That's one thing I like about going to the GIE expos. You get to see the latest, greatest equipment and the newest models at that show. Brands that I have used and had good success with are Hustler, Exmark, Gravely, Skag. I can vouch for all four of those that are good brands. Like I said, they're not the only good brands, but those are ones that I have personally used and have found to be durable and nice zero-turn mowers. Which string trimmer should you buy? Again, there's a lot of brand loyalty here. Personally, I like Husqvarna. Okay, that's my choice trimmer. I use a current model I have, I think, is the Husqvarna 525 LS, and I really like it. I think it's a great balance between power and weight of the actual trimmer. It's not too heavy. It performs well even when I flip it upside down. I just like the way it performs. Is it a perfect trimmer? I don't think so. I think maybe the handle could be a little more comfortable, though I do like the new kind of anti-vibration features they have to keep you from shaking as bad in your hands if you're using it for hours and hours. So anyway, I like Husqvarna. I think my next choice would be a Steel probably. I've heard good things about the Steel 94R is one particular model. I know a lot of people use the Steel, the 90, the 100, the 110. They've got various models But those are the two brands that I have most confidence in. Personally, I like Husqvarna. Which edger should I buy? Now, some of you might edge with your string trimmer, and that's fine. But if you're starting off, that edging with your trimmer can take a little practice. So you might want to get a stick edger, and that typically gives you a little cleaner look, in my opinion. These are very similar to your string trimmer, so I'm going to stick with the same brands, a Husqvarna or a Steel. It doesn't mean that Echo and Shindao and Red Max, all those don't make edgers. They do, and I'm sure they're good products as well. But these are the ones that I have the most confidence in. Which hedge trimmer should I buy? Let me talk about this first. Aside from your brand loyalty, you've got different sizes. You got kind of the short compact hedge trimmers, you got the medium shaft ones, and then you got the really long ones that are kind of expensive to buy brand new. I mean, you're probably looking at $600 or so. I really like those long shafted hedge trimmers for one, obviously for reaching up to higher shrubs, but I find even on the lower shrubs, you're not bending over as much. It's a little bit less strain on your back. So choose your brand, but I prefer the long shafted ones if possible, or at least the ones with a medium shaft. The short ones, run fine, but on short shrubs that are knee high, you're bending over a lot, it can put a lot of strain on your back. Which blower should I buy? Well, for me, you don't want to get a handheld blower unless you're doing very light amount of blowing. I own a handheld blower, they're just not comparable. So let's start off by saying, get a backpack blower, and there's different opinions here. Some people, if you're doing a lot of leaf cleanup and that sort of thing, they want the biggest blower out there. Okay, so they might look at getting that new Steel 700 or the big Echo or whatever. I like Red Max blowers. That's what I've used from the very beginning, and they've really never given me a reason to switch because they're super dependable, powerful, and I find that they hold their power for years and years to come. It doesn't start losing power, at least in my experience. Personally, I don't necessarily use the biggest one if I'm just doing residential properties. Like I said, if you're out there blowing off a big parking lot, then more power is better doing leaf cleanups. But just for residential properties, or if you're just getting a blower to start off, sometimes I get one of the more medium-sized ones. Like Red Max made this EBZ 5150 that was sort of a medium-sized one. They have maybe 3 sizes above that, and you can get whichever size you want. But sometimes I just didn't want the weight of the big blower and found it a little bit overkill on just residential property. So check out the blowers. I like Red Max. What does the lawn care business do in the wintertime? Well, that's a good question, and it's one that people think about a lot, and there are some options. If you live up north, obviously, if you want to get into snow plowing, that's fine. If you live in the south, sometimes even in Florida and places like that, the grass never really stops growing, so you can literally mow grass the whole time. But for some of you that have kind of seasonal mowing and it's really not a lot to do in the winter, it can be tricky. So I think a couple things. One, you can really try to get you some year-round accounts, whether that be commercial properties that give you a 12-month contract or some high-end residential properties. You can focus on doing some leaf cleanup that might, maybe when the mowing ends in October, that leaf cleanup might carry you through January or something like that, or maybe at least through the end of December. You might could get into doing some landscaping. I know people that can do that in the wintertime, and then that can pick back up early in the year before the grass starts needing cut. There's different things you can do. For me personally, I kind of got into the weed control and fertilization, where I found that to be a year-round income, where the mowing was sometimes a struggle in the wintertime. The weed control was steady year-round. That was one of the biggest reasons I moved into that part of the industry. What are some extra services you can offer in your lawn care business? Well, there's a lot of things people do. I mean, some of the easy ones are like trimming hedges, putting out mulch for people, putting out pine straw in their flower beds. You have people that get into all kinds of stuff. They sell firewood in the wintertime. They put up Christmas lights. People that install seasonal flowers. Maybe you get into doing these leaf cleanup jobs. You learn how to work on irrigation systems, and maybe if it's even just replacing broken sprinkler heads and things like that. So there's a number of things you can get into to help supplement your income. I don't always think that that's a great idea from the very beginning. To me, if you establish yourself in mowing grass or whatever the primary focus is, and then you can add some of these things later. But I personally don't like being too scattered. Aeration is another thing that people get into that can be a money maker. Even if you're mowing grass and you go rent a machine to do that, that can be something to bring in some extra income. How much do you charge for lawn care? Well, this is something I get asked, regularly. And again, it depends. It's hard to give a hard, fast answer. I'll give you some, some information here, but for a lot of you, it's understanding how much my costs are. You know what I'm saying? So for many people, they want to charge an hourly rate. You don't tell the customer, well, here's my hourly rate, so I'm going to start the clock when I start and stop the clock when I finish. But you estimate how long is that property going to take, and then you charge an hourly rate based on your estimation per person per hour. And you can do that for hedge trimming, cutting grass, whatever. So let's just say you're going to charge $75 per hour and it's just you. Well, if I estimate that yard was going to take me 30 minutes, then let's say I'm going to charge $40 or $37.50 if you want to be exact on the math. Well, if you had two people working and it took 30 minutes, well, now your rate's going to be $75 because it's $75 per person per hour. But let me clarify by saying, you know what, if you're charging $75 per hour and you're not making a profit because of whatever circumstances going on with your business, you've got a lot of overhead, then that's not enough for you. On the flip side, you might can charge $60 an hour and be very profitable. So it's not necessarily some magic number. You got to think, what is profitable for my business? If I tell people, it's not only your time. I mean, that is a very important factor. The cost of your time and the labor that you're using, whether it's you yourself or you're hiring somebody. But there's a lot of factors in the cost of your equipment, the drive time in between properties. So if it's your next door neighbor, in my opinion, you might give them a little bit cheaper price because you know what, that's going to save me drive time. Or you can maybe charge the same price and be a little bit more profitable. So there's a lot of factors that go into pricing, but in a general sense, you kind of think, what is my hourly rate per person per hour? And then you look, but you got to also look at the numbers and see, am I being profitable? Not only overall, but is each individual lawn being profitable? Do I have this one lawn that's way out of the way that takes longer than I thought, and I'm not profitable at that rate? Well, then you need to either drop that lawn or go up on the price. Should you put your pricing on your advertising? So what I mean by that, if you're going to leave a door hanger or a postcard on somebody's door, should it say something like lawns starting at $40 or something like that? Or maybe even have a blank spot there, and if you're able to sort of look at that lawn and you can even write in the price there on the postcard or door hanger. Well, I do think that is better. It's just, how do you do that? What if you're not able to look into the backyard? So sometimes I've done that. I've made these, door hangers that have a blank spot, but then on a lot of properties, I'm not able to really price it because I'm not able to look at the backyard. Now there's, software where you can get a satellite image that helps, but that doesn't always work either. So while I do think people like having a price, and maybe in some of these cookie cutter neighborhoods where all the yards are small and they all look the same, you can have sort of a fixed price for those yards. And I think that does help because I think people like knowing the price up front. But like I said, it doesn't work for all yards. So as a general rule of thumb, I don't do it as much anymore. Because it kind of looks weird when you leave a door hanger on somebody's yard that has a blank spot to write the price and you don't have anything written in there because you don't know what to charge them because you can't look at the whole yard. So anyway, it's helpful, but it's hard to pull off. Which truck should you buy for your lawn care business? Well, this is going to depend on what you're doing. And for me, doing weed control and fertilization, I've got a big spray tank in the back of the truck. I need a 3/4 ton truck to be able to hold that weight. But if you're not doing that, if you're just maybe you're pulling a trailer, that sort of thing, You know, a truck with a V8 engine in it is helpful. The amount of weight you're pulling is needed. If you think you're going to expand and have a crew one day, then it's helpful to have that quad cab where you can put stuff and or people in the back of the truck, in the back seat, that is. So, you know, there's some advantages that, you know, and I do think sometimes looking at it, if I was going to continue to expand into mowing, I think there's a lot of advantages to getting one of those, maybe it's an Isuzu NPR with a trailer bed on it where you can just pull the mower straight up onto the bed of the truck, or some kind of box truck that you're able to do that. I like the concept of not having to pull a trailer. Now, for many of you, you're gonna have a trailer and pull that, and that's kind of the easy way to get going. But once you become established, I do think there's some advantages to being able to just load it all up on the truck. And for security purposes, especially if it's a box truck, not that somebody couldn't steal it if they wanted to bad enough, but I like the maneuverability of it, not having to pull a trailer around. So that may be something to look into in the future. How big of a trailer do you need? You know, if you're going to buy a utility trailer, or maybe an enclosed trailer, open trailer, whatever, if you're just starting off with one zero-turn mower, let's say, and a push mower, then to be honest with you, you can get by with like a 10-foot trailer, single axle, and you put that mower on there, and you have the push mower turned sideways on the front of the trailer, and you might build you a little box out of 2x4s to keep it from rolling around. And I like to put a 2x4 behind where the tires sit on the zero-turn mower to help it stay more secure. So, you know, that can get you by and get you going. You know, once you get into having two mowers, it's probably not a bad idea, honestly, to go ahead and get a double axle trailer. If you get like a 14-foot trailer that maybe 6 foot wide or 6.5 foot wide, then you can put two zero-turn mowers on there, and then you can have your racks mounted and all that to be able to secure the equipment. How do I get commercial contracts? That's a question people want to know sometimes, and in my experience, I have found that just going in and cold calling on commercial people does not work that well. Now, maybe you're a great salesman and you know how to make that happen. It doesn't work well for me, I'll say that. You know, so if you can make that happen, then walk right in there and say, I want to speak to the person who makes decisions about the lawn care, and walk in and have a meeting and sell yourself. I haven't had success with that, okay? So to me, it comes through a couple ways. Through a relationship you have. So let's say that you've got an established lawn care business and you pick up a lot of residential properties, and it just so happens some of those are business owners or important people within a business who make decisions. Well, sometimes that can lead you to an opportunity to bid on or to be the provider for a business. The other thing I found is that having a good presence on the internet, a lot of times these people, these property management organizations, they just simply go on Google and they type in lawn care and they call, you know, several companies that show up. So if you're showing up on the first page of Google, that's going to give you some opportunities. Along those same lines, the next question, does my company need a website? Well, need, I guess, is a strong word. You don't have to have one, but I tell people regularly that if you're going to be in the lawn business for the long haul, I don't understand why you would not have a website. Now, there's a little bit of cost involved in getting a website, especially if you're going to pay somebody to design one for you. But you know what? The potential there, if you have a decent website that ranks in the search engines, and that's a whole nother, you know, ball game of how you get ranked in this industry of search engine optimization. There's a lot of factors that go into that. But there is a big potential. I don't know the percentages off the top of my head, but a great percentage of people are finding their lawn care company on the internet now. And if you don't have a presence on the internet at all, then you are missing out on those people who are looking. So for me personally, I get a ton of business from the internet. It's been hugely beneficial. If you say, you know what, I don't want to start off with a website, maybe later, I think the least you can do is go ahead and create a Facebook business page. I mean, that's free, there's no cost, it's easy to do, and that can give you at least a start on having some presence online. Should I pay for advertising in the phone book? Well, obviously if we were, 30 years ago, the answer would obviously be yes. I mean, that so many people are looking in the phone book. Today, that's not the case necessarily. So I would say it like this. To me, it depends on the market you're in. I find that sometimes in more rural areas, that where maybe the potential customers are a little older and more rural, you know what, they still use the phone book, they still read the newspaper, and so things like advertising in the newspaper and the phone book are still effective in those areas. If you're in an area that has more younger families, they're not using the phone book and they're not reading the newspaper, and so those things are really going to be more of a waste of money. So I think you target the audience you're in. For me, I don't use money on phone book advertising because it's simply not the demographic of people that are in my area. I feel like much more benefit comes from me having a strong presence on the internet than advertising in the phone book. What are some other ways I can advertise my business? People always want to know, how do I get customers? Well, there are a lot of ways. I mean, if you have a website and you're not showing up on Google, you can pay for Google AdWords. You can do Facebook ads. Those ways are effective. Even without paying for Facebook ads, you can just be active in local Facebook groups where maybe they let a business advertise once a month or once a week or something. So just being active, looking on Facebook for people who are searching for lawn care and being able to respond to those requests are important things. I know people that have success on Craigslist. I personally haven't had success that way, but I know people that are, so I'm not exactly sure how they're doing it, but that's one option. I like thumbtack.com. It's not free, but it's not expensive either. It brings leads to my phone or to my email that I can then respond to and get an opportunity to bid on some jobs. I think it's also important just to build relationships with people that can send me business. So if I was cutting grass, I would try to get to know the weed control people, because I can guarantee you they're going to get phone calls asking them, do you cut grass? And they're going to need somebody to send those customers to. Vice versa. If I was doing weed control and fertilization, I'm going to try to get to know some of the guys who are mowing grass, because they're going to get asked, hey, do you fertilize and do weed control, or do you know somebody that you would recommend? So building those relationships with key people who can refer you business, that is a huge way to get customers in the lawn care business. Number 19, we made it that far so far. What do you do about the heat in the summer? I live in Alabama, it gets hot. A couple of things. I wear a big hat with a neck flap, okay? It maybe looks slightly funny. I kind of grown to like it. But I call it my own personal shade tree. It keeps the sun off of me. I get sunburned easily, and I like that hat. So that's one thing that's very important, keeping the heat off your head. Also, those like cool wrap things that you can, squeeze out with cold water, squeeze them out and they stay cool for hours. You can wrap those around your neck. There are things like that that obviously are important. Of course, sunscreen, drinking plenty of water. These are things that are just sort of common sense. But for me, that hat is a huge difference maker, and those cool towels. Number 20, what are some supplies you should keep on your truck? Now let's talk about a mowing business. I think it's important, have a little toolbox or somewhere where you can keep maybe a can of Fix-A-Flat, extra trimmer line, just a bag of random tools that you're gonna need, a hammer, screwdriver, wrenches, pliers, things like that, because you don't know what's gonna happen. Sometimes a little portable air compressor is important. Maybe it's one that you can plug in to the cigarette lighter of your vehicle and be able to, air up a flat tire. I like to keep a tow rope in there. Sometimes, you know what? You might get your zero-turn mower stuck. I've done it around the edge of a pond, got too close, and had to pull myself out with the truck or get some help. So, it's not ideal, but that's not a bad thing. Jumper cables, extra edger blades that you might have to change out. Of course, a gas can with some extra gas in it's good. And another good thing is a tire plug-in kit. So sometimes you get a flat tire, you're able to plug your tire on the spot. Maybe if if the fixed flat doesn't work, it has too big a hole, maybe you can plug it, use a portable air compressor to get some tire going in. Anything to keep you in the field, to keep you having from stop your day, come home, fix something, or take it to a shop. If you can fix it in the field and keep going, I find it a big help. So these are some things that I like to keep on. Oh, wall spray. I hate walls. Sometimes you're trimming around a privacy fence and they come flying out and they get you. You know, I want to take the spray and take care of business. Hey, these are 20 questions. I have 101 of them, so I'm planning on doing more videos like this. I plan to put a link when I do the other videos to the other videos popping up now so that you can watch all of them in the series and get the full 101 questions. But for now, if you hadn't done so, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I've produced hundreds and hundreds of videos and spent a lot of time putting together helpful content for those of you who are in the lawn business or just starting out in the lawn business. So subscribe to the channel, stay in touch, let me hear your thoughts in the comments. Thanks a lot.